this industry has that ability, right? I do love that about it, is that it does have that flexibility. You can work 30 hours a week and make a decent income.
And I think what's awesome about it is this idea of like an unlimited paycheck. That is 100% real in this industry.
Hey, welcome back. This is Duane. I'm part of the collective. I'm here with Lori and Anna and Daniel. And we're going to talk about some of the keys or some of the behind the curtains of what it's like to be a loan officer. So I do think that even though it's not one of the questions that's on there, I want to ask, because I think it is interesting asking different people, right? I feel like this group's pretty diverse. We've got people that are relatively new, and honestly, Daniel, I'm not sure how long you've been in the business.
2 years.
2 years. And Anna, 4 years, right? Lori, a little more than 4?
Couple more.
Yeah, a couple more than 4. So
I had a 0.
yeah. So I've been in the business 24 years.
Wow.
And, you know, Lori, over 40 now, right? So I'll start with you. What got you into the mortgage industry?
I was working as a bank as a bank teller.
Okay.
And a credit company would come in and they would give us these verifications, and we would verify any loans that they would have.
Right.
And I would fill out the loans that they had at the bank, and they would take it back to a credit company and they would input it on a credit report. That's how it was back then.
Right.
And I was intrigued by it, so I started working for the credit company to make extra money, and then they gave me the name of the UDC mortgage, and then I started as a receptionist for 2 weeks, and then I started as a processor 2 weeks later, and I just read the thick books, the Fannie Mae, the Freddie Mac books, and it's how I learned the business.
2 weeks.
Huh.
And the manager that taught me was one of my best friends, and she was in my wedding, and I still play pickleball with her in Arizona now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, my sense is it's crazy to me that, you know, in 40 years, you've probably worked with some of the same people at some different institutions.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I feel like there's many industries that are that way, that, you know, once you're in it, there's a lot of the same people that you run into. Now, starting 40 years ago, 2 weeks as the receptionist, not a lot of training there to get to processor.
Yep.
Then was it an on-the-job training at that point?
Yep.
And then how long after that before you became a loan officer?
I was a processor for probably 8 or 9 years, and then I was the VP's assistant, and he originated, and I was his assistant. So I really originated.
Okay,
and that's how I started.
Got it. He took the call.
Yep.
You did the work.
Yep.
Got it. So kind of, I mean, in today's world, kind of a production assistant.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend, if somebody is getting new in the business, to be a loan officer assistant or a processor, because then you know the reason why you need the conditions, or you understand the process.
Right. Yeah, that's great advice. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So what was the licensing process like?
There was no licensing process.
Oh, right. Same thing when I started in 2000.
Yeah.
You know, you basically, the guy goes, "You want to be a loan officer?" Yes. Okay. All right. Let's get you some business cards.
Yep.
Right.
So did you guys have to get licensed after, or could you just still?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, for me, I don't know. 2008 is when they instituted the rules that required licensing. In 2008, I was working for a bank, and banks had an out for some reason. I don't really fully understand it, but basically, if you work for a bank, you're good.
Yeah.
Right? And so they don't require licensing. But in 2000, oh no, I take that back. We did have to get tested. We did have to go and take the test.
Nowadays they still don't.
Banks don't.
The
Is that
bigger
what it
banks
was?
don't.
I don't remember. Yeah, see, I apologize. I don't remember exactly when, but at some point I did have to take the test to become licensed. And it must have been when I moved outside of the bank world. So yeah, it's different. So, I mean, but you've had to take testing.
Yeah, so I actually, I had my own company in the early 2000s. So at that point, as a broker at the time, I had to have my own license. So I've been licensed since 2000.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, we'll skip Anna since Anna had to go check on her daughter. So Daniel, you said 2 years.
2 years.
So what got you into the mortgage industry?
So my wife's grandparents were mortgage advisors. They had their own mortgage company for 30 years. At the time, I was working at Nordstrom as a women's shoes department manager. And then, so then from there, I had a conversation with them. They kind of told me the route that they went.
Right.
And similar to Lori, I actually went to the bank, BECU, for 5 years. Spent a year as a personal banker and then 4 years as a branch manager. But again, similar to Lori, I just took all of my downtime and poured it into the mortgage information. Ended up getting to a point to where I was qualifying mortgages and then sending them to the loan officer.
Okay.
But because my branch was operating on all cylinders and we were hitting numbers, I tried to move into mortgage at BECU and they kind of handcuffed me a little bit. So when that happened, I left, went to Amazon, and actually I've been doing Amazon and mortgage. Mortgage has kind of been more part-time.
Okay.
But Amazon has been my full-time for the last 2.5 years as well.
Okay. And so that continues to be the case.
For the time being, the plan is to move to full-time mortgage officer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So around Nordstrom's and shoes, I mean, are you familiar with Ryan Mallory?
Yeah, I know.
You don't know him from Nordstrom's, right?
So we always kind of cross paths. He was actually, every role that he got promoted to, I was kind of the one that came in behind him. So I was always like,
so is this guy Ryan
kind
that
of
you
just
keep hearing
following
about?
me. Yeah. Oddly enough, I ended up following him at Nordstrom, and then he brought me. He's actually the one that I reached out to and gave me the opportunity to do part-time. I just sent him an Instagram message and said, gave him my rundown of my Amazon and
then Ashley and Craig Benson as well worked there.
Yep.
Right. So we've got in the collective, there's a pretty strong Nordstrom's women's shoe sales group.
Yep.
I think it's customer service.
The white glove.
Right.
The white glove service.
Well, I'm telling you right now that I probably couldn't sell shoes to women. Like, no, I'd be like, no, you're going to take these. These are the ones. Get out. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you a little bit about how I got into the business. And it really starts with the fact I got hired in the fire service in 1998. So I've been a 2-job guy the entire time I've been in the mortgage industry. So I got hired in 98. My wife, we wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I needed another source of income. And in 99, my brother got married and I met a Seattle firefighter at that wedding who was doing mortgage. And he, we talked for a while. He's like, yeah, you should look into this. I think you'd do well. Now, when I started, I thought that it was just a service job. Like, yeah, they walk in, you take their order and you provide them a loan, right? And I even told the guy that I got first hired by, I'm like, hey, this isn't sales, right? Like, oh no, right? It took me sometimes a little slow. It took me like 6 months to figure out, wait a minute, this is sales, right? And so, I wish that I had started with more knowledge, right? Because I was basically on my own. I worked for a small broker that was a net branch, and this is 2000. There was many times early in my career that I struggled, and if I had had more knowledge of the process before I was completely on my own, I feel like it would have been more successful. So yeah, I 100% agree that if you can start as a PA or a processor, something where you can learn the industry, right? Because again, there's just nobody that shows up in this industry going, or, graduates from school says, I want to be a loan officer, right? It happens, but it's very, very rare. Most of us, we come from a different spot. What are the habits and the actions that have been the most helpful in helping you grow a book of business?
I think asking a lot of questions up front to agents and clients and really listening to what their answers are. Because what their answers, and then you can actually tailor the whole process of the loan towards how they answer that question. What's most important to them? Like, for instance, I have a deal right now that it was at another company, and I listened to them up front and asked them a lot of questions. They're moving from Yakima, they're moving over here. The mother-in-law, which is his mother, was going to assistant living. They don't have a lot of time, but they want somebody that they can trust. So I listened to all of that and did a lot of hand-holding, and I did get the deal. So I listened to what was important to them. The rate wasn't important, and where they were at, they could have got a lower rate. I actually offered to talk to that other person to say, this is what they're looking for. Is there a way we can just work together? I mean, I'm not going to take the deal. I mean, I was very, very transparent and I was very honest, but I really wanted the best deal for them. But they stuck with me. So I think that being honest and listening to what they're really wanting in the process is really important. And I think being kind and giving people grace, because you never know what they're going through. So some people, they may not understand why you need 4 conditions on the one subject, but if you explain to them the reason why you need it, I think also is important.
Yeah, cool. I like that. One of the things that I've noticed, having worked with you for the past few years, is that your interest in people, right? Your desire to truly help people really shows through. And, I think that's super beneficial to you, especially with agent partners.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you talked about earlier today, you talked about the fact that, you've got agents that you work with coming to stay with you over the weekend, and you're all going out on a boat to go clamming or crabbing together. And that's not just business, that's relationships. Right.
And all of these relationships started as real estate agents.
Yeah.
But then now they're my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
Well, and I mean, yeah. And it just speaks to it. You talked about the fact that somebody you worked with when you started over 4 years ago, you still interact with, right? Like, so people are important to you. And
so that would be my advice,
Yeah.
is make relationships really strong.
Yeah, I agree. What, Daniel, in your time, and obviously a little different time frame, but what have you seen that's been successful for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest one that I've found is just staying consistent with my activities. So whether it's new partner agent outreach, whether it's follow-ups with clients, staying consistent on that, even with a full-time job, has helped secure business and keep partners with me. I think, to Lori's point, transparency and communication are 2 of the biggest keys. And to your point, caring about your client, I think is one thing that I've tried to really adopt and bring in, and let the clients know that, I'm not just here for your loan. I'm here for your financial success throughout the entirety of the time you're in that home, and then hopefully future homes. So activity, communication, transparency, and caring about your clients, I think, is what has helped me grow to where I'm at.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. And I'll say, you talked about asking lots of questions. The thing that I remember a manager earlier in my career talking about is go deep, right? And it's another way of saying the same thing that you said, and it's absolutely true, is you've got to understand the nuance of it, right? We all know that rates are an important aspect of what we do, but we also know that we have all made the decision that rate is not the only thing that's important, right? Because if it's absolutely just rate, I'm telling you right now that there's internet lenders out there that are sitting in call centers that can beat us in rate, right? And I used to struggle with that, but I've gained the understanding that, look, I provide value that that you can't quantify necessarily, but is important, right? And to Lori's point of, look, there are times where people understand that there's something beyond rate that's important. And so focusing on that is the key to our success, and building those strong relationships and truly caring about people is how we win. So.
And to that point, I think every client and every file is different, right? So if you don't dig deep and you don't get those answers, and your tunnel vision is, how do I get them the best rate? Well, maybe they want less cash to close, so they have more liquidity moving into their home. So to, double down on everything that you guys have said, being able to get that information allows you to structure the file that works for that specific client, and maybe not for the next one that you see.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the questions I ask in my initial consult with a new client is, why do you want to buy a home?
That's good.
Because that's thing, right? And sometimes people are kind of stumped by that question, and and then I have to kind of walk them through it, because there's a visceral reason for that, right? And knowing what that is, that's important information, right? Because that's going to help me structure the deal. Maybe they're coming in with 20% down because mom and dad told them that you don't want to pay mortgage insurance, but they're putting themselves in a position where they've exhausted all their savings, and now they're not prepared for the emergent need.
The inevitable.
Right.
Emergency need.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I had my hot water heater, my lawnmower, and my furnace all decide that it was time, right? And so it happens. Now, I'd had a really good run. For a minute, I was really mad. It's like this.
Life happens. I mean,
This is bullshit,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. So got a great house, and I haven't had anything go on for a few years. So it was time. It's just the nature, right? It just all happened at the same time, which makes it feel like somebody's beating me up, but you get through it. So, but having that why, understanding their why of home ownership is, I think, just a key.
and it's for short-term and long-term what their why is.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When a lot of people will tell me their why is, I just want to stop renting.
Yeah.
And then why do you want to stop renting?
Right.
What,
Yeah.
What is making you shift from wanting to pay a rent to a mortgage?
Right.
And that allows a little bit deeper of a conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes clients may just, I'm done renting, right?
Right. Yeah.
But if you expand on it, they can find a little bit more of their why.
Right. Well, and sometimes you kind of have to lead them down the path, right?
Yep.
Like, hey, is it because you want to build generational wealth, or, right? You can kind of help them down that for sure. So if you were to go back, right? This is another question I hear in a lot of podcasts. What advice would you give 18-year-old you?
I think that for the agents and the clients and the process in the mortgage world,
Yeah.
you have a loan officer, you have a loan officer assistant, you have a processor, you have an underwriter, you have a closer. I think doing a cover letter up front to tell the story so that every person that picks up that file or reviews it sees the story up front. They don't have to dig through all the file to figure it out. You're just telling the story up front. So, I do cover letters. I was trained like 10 years into it to do a cover letter to the underwriter. But then I got to a point where, why am I just telling the underwriter? I should be telling the loan officer assistant, the processor, the underwriter, the closers. Tell it up front. And I think it helps the whole process to go through smoother. And then I'm always going to say be kind and give everybody grace, because you never know what somebody's going through. That's my big thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But if you were to start your career over, what would you do different?
I don't necessarily think I would do too much different.
Okay.
I love what I do. I really do. And and what you said earlier is that no transaction is the same. They're all different.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love what I do, and I love the business, and I love to get to know the clients short-term and long-term. And a lot of my clients are also my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm telling you, relationship, okay, it can be
Yep.
the thing on your wall, but that's
Yep.
that's pretty clear to me that that's
Yeah.
the driver. It's relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Daniel?
I think if I went back and talked to 18-year-old me, I would. This is a tough one. I think if I went back to 18-year-old me, I'd tell myself not to be a degenerate. We're not going to put that in the video.
No, it's there. It's probably what we lead with now.
No, I think if I went back to the 18-year-old me, I would just tell myself to slow down and trust the process. I think I found myself always in a hurry to find success. When I didn't go to college to play football and I got into my career, everything was what's next? How can I get to that next level? How can I get to that next job title? How can I get that pay increase? But I think now that I'm here, if I went back, I wouldn't do anything differently. I think the experiences that I had set me up to be successful as a mortgage officer. I think the customer service at Nordstrom, the banking, and learning how to read a credit report and budget and all of those things that you may need to help a client through, right? Without any of that, I think I would have came into the mortgage industry and probably ran myself through a wall, because I'm very much of a perfectionist, and I love to be good at what I do. So naturally, in any new role, it's a little bit of a struggle. But if I just continue to slow down and trust the process, everything works out the way it's supposed to. So I don't know that I would do anything differently either.
Cool.
Good.
Cool.
You're gonna say you're gonna run?
Yeah, I'm
Run
gonna
the other direction?
Yeah. No, I mean, no. There's definitely periods of my mortgage career where I didn't like it. I struggled a lot because it's not my natural fit. You know, I'm a fireman that became a loan officer. But I've definitely gotten to a point where I've got a mindset that's correct for this industry. And part of it is because I quit viewing myself as a salesperson and I started viewing myself as a provider, a servicer.
Do you feel like you're a salesman? Because
Not at all.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm a salesperson.
Not with my clients.
Yeah.
And I don't think so with my agents either. I think when I first started, I was selling myself as hard as I possibly could to
Yeah.
get agent partners. And I got this program, I got that program. And as I continued to realize my value and what we do bring, I felt less salesy and more of like, here's what I bring to the table.
Right.
We can partner together or we don't have to. And
Right.
and at the end of the day, I know that your clients are going to be taken care of. So if you want to give me a shot, great. So no, I don't think I don't feel like it's in sales.
Yeah.
I don't feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not selling women's shoes and trying to go from 1 pair to 4 pair.
Right.
So I've
Yeah.
been in sales.
Yeah, you don't
I've done
upsell.
car
You don't
sales,
try and
I've done
upsell
all
people.
that.
Oh, hey, we can give you a second house purchase with this first one.
Yeah.
Buy one, get one free.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as like a consultant or an advisor.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a key part. That was key for me
Sure.
as well. Was getting that mindset change. Lori and I talked earlier about. I don't think you had come into the room when Lori and I were talking. We had a meeting earlier, and we were talking about the timing of when you get into the industry. You got in 2 years ago. Well, that's right when it turned to crap, quite frankly. And she got in, it was the height. Like, I don't know about you, Lori, but my 2 best years in this industry were in 20 and 21, right?
Not the last 2 years.
No. In fact, what did you say about the last 2 years?
They're the hardest years I've done in 40
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. So you got in right when things were crazy, right? So it just felt like there were ducks everywhere and you had a great gun and you were shooting. Yeah. Anyway, it was easy, right? It's just falling out of the sky on you. You got into the industry where there's no ducks.
Yeah.
Like they're in a whole different country now.
Yeah.
And so none of us get to pick when we start, but I think Lori would agree with me. I would rather start where you're starting than where you started. And obviously none of us get to pick,
Yeah.
right? But for any of you that are looking to maybe get into the industry, here's the advantage to getting into the industry now is that you're going to learn to be very diligent with your activities, right? You mentioned one of your strengths is activities. Why? Because that's the only way you're going to get business right now. It's not walking in the door. You have to go find it,
Yeah.
right? And so getting into the industry in a downtime, in a down market, builds really good habits that when it turns to good times, now you're set, right? Stay diligent to that.
Sure.
Don't lose track of that.
Now, the only thing with that is you don't get as much exposure to the what ifs or the
Right.
problems that come through.
Well-
The advantage I had was I was working 17 to 20 files a month. So then it was like,
You experience a lot really quick.
yeah, you
really
kind
fast.
of like get bombarded with all of this knowledge. It's
Right.
a lot, but you learn the underwriting side of things a lot quicker.
Right.
Because you're having to research so many more different scenarios. That was my favorite part of it, was that I felt like I got 10 years of experience in like a year and a half
Right.
in that way. But when it comes to relationship building and sustaining and business,
Yeah, and that's a great point. You're absolutely right. I mean, you know how to structure deals more just because you've had more deals to structure, and that I agree with that 100%. And
this is more valuable though.
and yes, thank you, because that's what I was going to say as well. Is look, I can figure out how to structure, right? getting the deal in the door, for almost all of us, that's the hard part.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? And we've got a ton of support to help us with structuring, right?
Yep.
That's one of the reasons that I love our region
Yep.
is joy, collaboration, and growth are our core values. And I'm not just selling, right? Because I truly believe in them, right? I lead Roundtable because it's important to me that we all work together so we can all improve, right? Because there's plenty of business for us. Fuck the rest of those guys. But if you're in our region, you're one of us. We
Right.
got you, right? And I love that.
And because the deals are not as many of them, when we go to the round table, we get to hear what Duane has or Daniel has or Anna has. We hear about different stories
Right.
that they have, so then we can learn from their
Right.
experiences.
Yeah. And then you know who did that deal,
Yeah.
right? Like we just had a meeting and Debbie Jumper had a 12-month bank statement loan. You know what? If I have a scenario right now, you know who I'm going to reach out to? Is Debbie, right? Because I know she just did one of those. And that's when it's all fresh in your mind. And the guidelines haven't changed yet because she just did it, right? And so having those benefits, yeah. So you're right. You did have. Now, what we didn't get to ask you before, so we'll ask you now. How did you get into mortgage?
COVID, pretty much. COVID got me into mortgage. Well, because I was a wedding photographer at the time.
Oh, that's right.
And so, divorce and COVID, I should say, got me into mortgage because I got, they did. I got divorced in 2019.
Okay.
And then, mom of two, owning my own business wasn't really, I was making great money, but it just like the stability of it, right? Like,
Right.
there were certain things like healthcare and stuff that weren't happening. So I was already kind of considering the idea of looking into something different. And then COVID happened and I lost all of my wedding. I had 24 that summer, all but 2 canceled. And so I was like, shit, I got to figure out income. Because it was just me and the kids. And so I actually went into financial advising first.
Okay.
And I was there for 3 months. 6 or 7 of my clients for financial advising were my brides from my business. And one of them happened to work for Guild Mortgage. And so I looked at her finances and I was like, ma'am.
Hello.
What do you do? Because I knew just a couple of years prior to that, she was working as an assistant manager at like AT&T. And then, here she is. I'm like, damn, what happened? So she was like, oh, I'm in mortgage. And I thought, and my first thought was, oh, no way. Like I finished 2 years of college. Like I didn't do any, financial stuff. Me and finance were like, not really. It was like, I wasn't even into financial advising. It was just like, let me just try things. Right. And then she came to me and said, I have a position for you on my team whenever you're ready. And I thought she was, crazy. Yeah. And then I kind of started researching and reading about it a little bit. And then I realized like, oh, all you have to do is take a test, get a license. I'm like, maybe. Went on a trip, came back, called her. I was like, I think I might take a swing at this. And she was like, great. Next day, got a contract. Week later, started. And then 4 months. It took me forever to pass the damn test because I'm not a good test taker. Squirrel, right? My ADD is not, not a good test taker. And I the second time I was 1 point off and I've never in my life had been so mad. But it took me 4 months to pass. And so during that time, I was just her assistant. But I was, doing all the legwork while she was bringing in business. And so I learned a lot very, very quickly.
Yeah. 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 And that's so, again, you had to step out, take care of your daughter, which
real life.
That's
a priority.
That's real life, right? And that's, that's one of the advantages of this industry is there's a ton of flexibility, right? Like we don't punch a clock.
Yeah.
Right. I've got another full-time job. Daniel's got another full-time job. You've got 3 children, all under the age of 12. Lori can't decide whether she lives in Camino, Bothell, or Arizona, right? And so there's a ton of flexibility to this industry. And that is a double-edged sword, right? Real estate agents will tell you that, they don't have an off, right? Like the reason we don't punch a clock is because we're always on the clock, right? Now, what I will say is without a doubt, there is something satisfying about sitting in the sun in Palm Springs closing a transaction, right? Like, okay, I'm on vacation and after this, I'm gonna go have a drink with my family, right? In the pool. But meanwhile, I'm closing a deal, right? So now there's times the boundaries can be tough and you have to set them. It was a few years ago that I decided that on my birthday, my phone gets turned off. It's the only day of the year. That's my day off.
Nice.
This is my birthday, right? Because there's times, especially
When's your
2020.
birthday? I have to remember what this
We
will
don't-
bother him on
we
his
don't.
birthday.
We don't talk about that. Especially in 2021, I don't know about you, but I mean, there was definitely fatigue,
Yeah.
because
It was 7 days a week.
It was nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we made great money.
I was a very shitty firefighter for those 2 years because I would get to the station and I would sequester myself in my room and I would go on calls, but other than go on calls, I would do mortgage. And I'm not saying that with pride, but I was like, you know what? There is money to be made and I'm going to get it.
Yep.
And I had a captain that, well, I did a few deals for him, so that probably helped. But yeah, it's, there is a struggle. If there's one thing that I would say that you constantly have to monitor is the life-work balance. And your statement in our roundtable today about, I don't want to make a ton of money. I would want to make a good income, but I want to spend time with my kids before they get out of the house. And this industry has that ability, right? I do love that about it, is that it does have that flexibility. I honestly believe that you can work 30 hours a week and make a decent income,
Yeah, totally.
So it's just, you don't get to pick which 30 hours it is.
Well, and I also think it's not the type of industry that you could just be on like cruise control, right?
No.
Like it's a constant stop and go, and it's not something that you can. It's not plug it and forget it. Like it's never going to get to
No,
that.
it's a proactive industry, not a reactive industry.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think what's awesome about it is this idea of like an unlimited paycheck. Really, like you're truly in control of how much money you want to make.
Yeah.
And your activities it is the one industry where the work that you put in, the input and the export, right? Input, output. Input and output is definitely like whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. I think that is 100% real in this industry. And I think sometimes when I'm still, we talked about this, I'm slower right now, but I also have just been like taking the pedal off the gas and just enjoying the kids a little bit during the summer. And then it's a nice reminder of like, yeah, you gotta keep it consistent. You've got to do the things that bring in business.
Yep.
Make sure
Work-life balance is real important. I think the collective does a really good job of making sure that everybody's doing that. And if you have something that you love, if it's golf or if it's crabbing, kind of go around your business based off of that and make it fun. And so that's what I feel like I've really tried to do in the last 6 months.
I think Casey does that very, very well here. And he's the first person that I've spoken to that's always like top of mind for him. And when I brought it up to him, he made me feel good about it. Like, yeah, do shit that you love. And I'm like, you're right, I can.
And your family's comes first.
Yeah, 100. The debt can be, no, I'm just kidding. We'll figure that out later.
If somebody's looking to get in this industry, right? We've already kind of talked about, how do you start? What's the best way? And I think the consensus is that if you can start as somebody in a support role as opposed to an originator, there's a definite benefit to that, right? Because you can learn the industry, you can get the touches, so you can learn how to structure and learn the nuanced stuff. But once you're out on your own, do you remember, Lori, what?
I remember being very scared going out on my own, because now you're straight commission. I mean,
Right.
that's scary.
Right.
But I was a processor, and then I was an assistant to the VP. And so he actually allowed me to start originating some of his deals and getting a
Yeah.
smaller base until I felt comfortable. But I also had a husband that actually had a salary job. So I think it kind of depends on where you're at as a situation.
Right.
But I think, but now I have Airbnb income that I rely on
Right.
if I don't close a deal in one particular month.
Right.
So I mean, it's because the last 2 years have been harder. So
Sure.
I think we just kind of, everybody's lives are a little bit different on how they structure
Yeah.
it. But it's hard to get started.
So what you're talking about there with, having the support. So Adam Grant calls that scaffolding, right? And scaffolding meaning that, look, you had support, and then slowly that support got taken away is what I'm hearing, right?
Yep.
Which is,
Yep.
I mean, dude, if I got to pick, I'd pick that, right? Because she had the opportunity to really learn the business and then start to do her own business, and then slowly had that support taken away to where she could.
But I still worry every single month. Where's my next paycheck coming from?
Right.
And that hasn't changed in 40 years.
Yeah.
So I still stress and worry about it. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, so so you're saying that if we were going to ask the question, how long does it take to ramp up? You're saying
still ramping
over
up.
40 years is what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. I mean, there's no question that there's an anxiety component to having the fact that, look, if I don't close any deals, I don't get paid, and mine's similar from the standpoint of I've always had the fire department income to sustain me, right? Like that's my base. And then mortgage is, I won't call it my bonus because that's not right. Because, I've structured my life such that if I just have the fire department income, it's not quite there. But if I don't have a ton of mortgage income, I'm okay. Right. And so,
this is it for me.
yeah. And so, yeah. So, but you spent you've been in the industry for 4 years, but you became an originator.
I became an assistant that originated pretty
Right.
much within 4 months.
Right. But I mean, when you became a full 100% commissioned.
That was a month ago.
So we'll get back to Anna, but I would say for her, it's more than a month before she feels.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah. A month in, I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. But you're not a single, because you said when you got into the industry, recent divorce, single mom, single income,
I have a partner now. We
Right.
have a house and all that, but
Right.
I don't commingle my finances.
Okay.
So
yeah. So you still have that.
I've got,
Yeah.
2 mortgages, a car, other, home
Yeah.
bills. So
Right.
yeah, no, I there's a slight panic about the end of the year,
Yeah.
but I've also learned to put money away.
Right.
And so that is not something that I used to do.
Yeah.
I
that would
spend
be an
money.
advice I would give somebody, is when the time is good and you have the
Yes.
Put
money,
money away.
definitely put the money away for
Yes.
the times that they're not. So,
And
Yeah.
don't build your life based on that good year.
Right. Right.
Because that's what I think I see a lot in this industry is people grow, and they build their life around this growth. And then when
Right.
they have a bad year, the level of anxiety and stress, I just don't think is worth it. And so I think,
live within your means.
and
Yeah. And your means aren't your best year.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I think that's something that as I sit back and I learn about the industry more, and I see like the really successful people, that's where I see them struggle as far as like maintaining healthy mental state is when they're just overextending themselves.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they think they're the shit. They have a $500,000 year and they're like great, and then
Yeah.
yeah. That's the wild ride, but it's really exciting.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And Matthew, you're still in a scaffolding stage too, right? With having the other employment, right?
Daniel.
Who's Matthew?
Oh my God, did I call you Matthew? What just happened?
Daniel.
Glitch.
Where did that even come
Glitch
from?
in the matrix.
I mean, it's another book in the Bible. I don't know what else that relates to. Holy mackerel! I apologize.
That's okay. No worries.
I'm like, why is he not reacting? What's happening right now?
Like, where's Matthew?
All right, let's try again. So Daniel, I would imagine then that at this point you're you're still in a scaffolding stage. You still have that support from Amazon. So you can't really probably answer when you're going to feel comfortable. But do you have an idea? I mean, is there a number? And I'm not asking you for the number, but do you have a number like, hey, I need X amount of volume? I need this many months of that volume, or what have you kind of set up for your structure?
Yeah, so I feel like everybody's ramp is a little different, right? I have that full-time security from Amazon. So I do think my ramp has taken me the full 2 years. I feel like I'm now in a position where this year and what I have built has allowed me to get in a position where I can replace the Amazon income. So as soon as that is like in full effect, that's where I feel like I can say I've fully ramped up, and now it's about growth from there. So I would say 2 years, probably full ramp. And I think if I didn't have a full-time job, it may have been a year versus 2 years,
Right.
Because I could have put my full 100% effort into the activities. So I think it's different for everyone, and everyone's scenario is different. And I don't know, I'm not very good at being satisfied. So I don't know that like a $500,000 year, like how can I get to $1 million? Right. And I think that's what's going to continue to propel me into success, is like just never being satisfied, but also living on a $130,000 salary versus a $500,000 is kind of what my plan is, so that way we're always comfortable and my wife doesn't have to work anymore.
Love it. Love it. Cool.
Yeah, I don't have a magic number.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a monthly magic number.
Yeah.
15K would be just more than enough.
Well, I mean, you can do the math to get to that, right?
I know, I have.
Yeah.
But
So you do have a number.
I mean, I have a number, but like, you know,
No, I don't actually.
it's just, well, it's a number, but it's like if I don't reach it, I don't care. Like I've never been money motivated. It's always been like, how can I enjoy my life
Yeah.
to its fullest without
Yeah.
worrying about money?
You were happiness motivated.
I am so happiness motivated. And I've learned that about myself. Like the more and more I live, the more I'm like, God, I'm not a good worker. I'm just so much more fun. Like I enjoy that part so much more. I mean, I do great. I'm a customer service like person. Like, I love people. But when it comes down to it, I'm really like, okay, how little can I work? And how much can I make
Yeah.
to still have a lot of fun?
Yeah.
And I'm really simple. I need like 3 vacations a year, and I need like at least like 3 concerts. You know?
3 what?
Concerts. I've been doing vacations every 3 months since I was 19.
Oh.
So
More
this
power
last
to you.
year was like the only year that I
I hope my wife doesn't see this video.
listen, I was broke always, but I was always on vacation. So I rather like that's my life.
Yeah. No,
That's where I
I love that. I love having that defined.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And I can do this. Like I travel and work all the time.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the best.
Right?
I think I couldn't do a job.
I've drank half a bottle of scotch with the client while we finished his loan application. It was pretty awesome. I remember thinking, this is really cool. This is a great job.
I got special permissions to work in Mexico. Like you have to get like certain approval to work internationally. I was like, dope. I'm gonna be there for 2 weeks. Bye. Sit in the resort.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Awesome.
It's a good industry to be in.
It is very flexible
And rewarding.
and rewarding. Absolutely. On Friday, I got a picture from a client that signed documents. He's a first-time home buyer. She has a condo, but they got married, and they sent me a picture of them having champagne. And I was like, this is why I love my job. I mean, yeah.
And it's good to empower people and make them realize how doable it is.
Yeah.
And also that it's not a scary or overwhelming or stressful event. It can really just be great and enjoyable.
I think the key to that is it depends on who you work with,
Yes, a good
which is
team.
why you should come work at the collective.
We got babies and dogs.
Yeah.
Did your movie end? So now we're okay because you need mom to fix it? Can you say hi?
No, too much. Too much. No, okay.
She looks tired.
Hey, she did.
I am kind of tired.
Well, looks like you got a nap partner. All right. Hey, thanks you all for hanging out with us for a minute. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and follow down below. Thanks.